President Davis, first off, as we're sitting here talking, today is December 10th, December 9th, second week of December, 2025. And it's been quite a year for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing year. Amazing year.
Yeah, amazing year for Livingstone, but we'll get to that too. But first, I know my audience would like to know, how things are going for you now. I know, we've been chronicling your story with the kid, battling kidney disease and trying to find a donor and going through all of that while continuing to run a university, a college, and just talk about how you're doing today, and we'll kind of go back and just kind of get to how we got here.
Well, I made a passionate appeal on May 5th at my commencement, and thank you for pushing that, because had you not pushed it, I wouldn't be sitting here today on the other side of Transplant. So I want to publicly thank you for doing that. You were the first one to push it out. And because you pushed it out, guess what? I had an anonymous donor read your article, follow it up by looking at a Black Enterprise article, and then walked into Atrium and said, hey, I want to donate to him. The problem was they didn't know who him was, because at that time I wasn't registered at Atrium, I was registered at Duke, and I had an appointment in August to come to Atrium so I can get worked up and get on their list as well. But when they walked in, they were intentional about donating to me. They couldn't find me, looked in the National Registry, there were hundreds of Anthony Davises. And then someone had the bright idea, why not call Livingstone? The article said he's the president of Livingstone.
Right.
They called, we thought it was a hoax. And the next thing we know, we're scheduled for transplant. And they chose November the 13th. November the 13th, guess what? I'm the 13th president. And it was, donated to me on the National Day of Giving. But our anonymous donor told me, no, they did it that way because I am the 13th president. So I'm so excited about that. 7 days later, after my transplant surgery, I was completely normal. All of my kidney markers were normal. My kidney function, measured by something called the GFR, was greater than 90. 7 days later, right after transplant, with one kidney, I'm completely normal. Today, as I meet with you, I'm 3.5 weeks in. Guess what? I'm restored, I'm renewed, and I'm rejuvenated.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's an amazing story. I'm glad that we could play some small part in it. I was watching the commencement, and I saw the heard the speech that you gave, and definitely we're super happy that that it resulted in that. I'm sure for you, just coming out and talking about that, I mean, was it something that was tough for you? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you knew well before, just to walk through the process of deciding to come out with it and deciding to come out with it during the commencement.
Yeah. How do you ask somebody to give something as vital as a body part? I mean, it's a humbling experience. Me having kidney disease was probably the most challenging season in my life. Most challenging season in my life. I'd never been sick before. And so now I become the president of Livingstone College. They tell me, hey, you have kidney disease. I said, what? I feel fine. They said, you have kidney disease. And it happened quick. A year after they told me, my markers had gone so high that they said, you may need to start thinking about dialysis. So they got me ready for dialysis. They did a process called peritoneal dialysis, where they insert a catheter into your abdominal cavity, and that's how you receive dialysis. I was on dialysis 9 hours a day, and at the end, 24 hours a day, I would do 9.5 hours, and then I would carry another solution in my abdominal cavity all day. That was tough in of itself. Made me nauseous. It made me very, very sick, made me sluggish. I gained a lot of weight, being on dialysis. So for me, being on the other side of it, man, I'm just so thankful, I'm so grateful. Again, restored, renewed, rejuvenated. It was hard, man. The hardest season of my life. And it was even harder to stand on that stage and make the appeal. Now, there were some people who made comments who said, well, it was the wrong timing, you shouldn't have done it. But to understand Livingstone College and the fact that we say that we're a family, but if you ever come on our campus and ask our students why do they like Livingstone, they'll tell you it's a family atmosphere. I'm a president who sits in the cafeteria and eats with my students. Even though I have a private dining room, I sit and eat with my students. I hang out with my students. I go to all their events. So we're one big happy family. And that's no putting on. That's who we are. So if anyone needed to know what I was dealing with, my students and their families needed to know. Because although I was suffering with kidney disease, I was always on the grind, still raising money, still raising our profile. I mean, let's look at it. In the 3 years that I've been president, we're one of the fastest growing HBCUs in the country. I saw another article from another HBCU that's in the news a lot. They talked about growing about 42%, 43. But guess what? Livingstone College has grown 43.5% in 3 years. And our male enrollment is 51%. 51% of my students are males. So we're in the trenches doing our work. And we believe that Livingstone College is poised, positioned, and postured to make a quantum leap in the future. So when I make that announcement, we had students, we had alumni, we had friends, members of the AME Zion Church, signed up to be a donor for me. As a matter of fact, Duke Healthcare Center was overwhelmed because they had about 70 people sign up to say, I want to donate to one person. Man, what an amazing story. And again, I thank you for helping me get the word out. They told me it would take me 7 years to find a match. I did it in 4 months.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, and I've had a chance to observe you on the campus and with the students and the alumni and interacting with all of them. And yeah, you are very active. You are pretty much everywhere, so I've been able to observe that firsthand. So yeah, I would have to imagine that, trying to maintain that while also, literally fighting for your life and doing dialysis for that long, it takes a strain on you. So
18 months and I had deteriorated so that the toxins that were in my blood. So, your kidneys remove toxins. Kidneys do a lot. They tell your body to make red blood cells. So being an anemic already, and putting kidney disease on top of it, there were times when my blood count was critically low, where they wanted me to come in and get blood transfusions. There were times when I didn't feel like moving, didn't feel like going, but I went on anyway, because I believed that I was given an assignment. And because I've been given this great assignment, I wasn't going to let my constituents down. But also, if I believed that God gave me the assignment, I wasn't going to let God down either.
Right. Now, some may not know you are a minister,
Yes.
So obviously I'm sure that helped you a lot to get through this. Let's talk about your, just the people on the campus. You talked about the students, but also your staff, your alumni, and everybody like that who I'm sure, the role that they played in, I'm sure, maybe even keeping you encouraged.
Man, let me tell you about that. When I was getting close. So most people don't know the doctors had basically told me that if I didn't get a transplant, my fate was probably sealed. But I still believed, trusted God. And, just to walk the campus and to have students, male and female, stop me as I'm riding around in the golf cart, because in the latter days I couldn't walk as well. But I would ride around the golf cart to stay engaged with the campus. Students would stop me, circle the golf cart and pray for me. I'd be in the cafeteria, and these are young brothers, would grab me by the hand and say, Mr. President, can I pray for you? So much so that they had a prayer vigil for me, where bishops from the AME Zion Church, students, packed out Varick Auditorium to say, we're going to have a prayer vigil for you. And everywhere I've gone, in the AME Zion Church, when I travel here in the city of Salisbury, I had people saying, we're praying for you. I believe that so many people were praying for me that God was sitting there hearing all these prayers and said, I got it. Let me hurry up and bless this guy with a kidney, because if not, you guys are going to keep messing up the phone lines, calling, asking for the same prayer for this one person. I really believe that. And I make light of that now, but I'm so grateful that so many people prayed for me. And if you don't believe prayer works, you need to come to Livingstone at Founders Day, because I'm going to formally introduce the donor who saved my life. We'd agreed to go public that day and share our story. And please bring your tissues, because it's one of those stories that will definitely move you to tears when you hear everything that transpired leading up to this transplant.
Awesome. Yeah, I know, a lot of people would say that, in a lot of ways you have, I don't want to use the term saved Livingstone, but, helped lift it up. But it seems like, the other end of the bargain is that it's helped lift you up in this circumstance.
Yeah. Where you sit determines what you see. In 2001, I said I wanted to be the president of Livingstone College. It's 25 years ago. I said I wanted to be the president of Livingstone. I had other offers. I was an accomplished fundraiser in my career. I have a portfolio where I've raised over $500 million. So if I get in a search, most of the time I'm going to be on everybody's short list. And I'm not being arrogant. That's just the nature of higher education. HBCU presidents raise profile, raise money.
Right.
So having a portfolio that said I raised over $500 million in my career, that's $500 million, excuse me, I would be attractive to any search committee, any board of trustees, right? But I never got in any searches. I was laser focused because I wanted to be the president of Livingstone College, because I watched it from a distance. And shout out to all of the presidents that I worked for, Algenia Warren Freeman, Dr. Algenia Warren Freeman, Dr. Jimmy R. Jenkins Sr. I watched them, and I sat in the second seat watching them move Livingstone College. And I said, when I become president, here are some of the things that I like to do. Here are the things that I like to address. And I walked into my interview, actually with a prescription. I laid out, here's what Livingstone College is today. And I told the board, you have 40 great candidates, but only one candidate can give you the perspective as a student, an alum, a member of the sponsoring denomination, a consultant, and now Senior Vice President, Chief Operating Officer. I have a different lens into Livingstone College. I can walk into that role day one and start transforming Livingstone College with my 5-pillar strategy. And the board went with it, unanimous, without one dissenting vote. And now they see the results 3 years later. 43.5% growth. 51% of our students are males. But we're not only growing in numbers, we're growing in the quality of students who go to Livingstone. No longer are we get me done college or university where this is the last resort for students. I have students who are making Livingstone College their first choice, turning down some of the prestigious state and private schools in the country to come to Livingstone. My average freshman class GPA of last year was 3.26. The year before, 3.26. Last year was 3.11, but I had about 10 students who would have elevated that number who were stuck at the embassies in Africa because of the new immigration policies. So we'd have 2 consecutive years would have had an incoming class with a grade point average of 3.2 or higher. But in addition to that, we're growing as it relates to our retention rate. We're retaining freshmen. Our freshman retention rate is 76%. Our persistence rate among upperclassmen is 92%. That's why we ran out of residence halls this year. It's not because we're in construction, but when you grow numerically and you're retaining student, they collide in the space, and now we have a great problem to have. We don't have residential hall space. This year, this semester, had to house about 60 students in local hotels. And I didn't put them in substandard hotels. I believe they needed to stay where I would stay. So we put them in the Hampton Inn, the Courtyard, and the Holiday Inn Express. Those are the best properties in Salisbury who work with us. But guess what? It came at a cost. But what I wanted to let students and their families know, I care about you enough to move resources around to make sure that you have a safe living and learning environment.
Wow. Well, yeah, so you've got us on where you've come from, where you are, what's next for Livingstone College, as we get ready to turn the page into 2026.
Man, 2026, man, I'm excited about what's going to happen in 2026. I'm thankful, and a shout out to the Board of Trustees of Livingstone College. I have one of the most progressive boards. Sometimes when you are a church-related school, you get criticized for having a board that are religious leaders. But I have to say, they are some of the most transformative leaders that I've ever had an opportunity to work with. Because if I lay out my vision, they'll question it because they have the fiduciary responsibility to do that. But then they'll say, this is good. We need to move on this. So we haven't gone public with this. We have an angel investor, not the anonymous donor. The anonymous donor just gave us another $5 million to continue our capital renovations on the campus and to add solar energy. So there's some great things coming to Livingstone College in 2026, 2027, and 2028. I'm not going to lay out all the projects, but we have an angel investor who's coming to the table with about $225 million to help us totally renovate our campus so Livingstone College will not look the same. We will be a different HBCU, but we will be able to go head to head with some of the perceived higher echelon HBCUs, but we will be more affordable. At Livingstone College, we're going to stay true to our mission, even though we're doing all of this renovating, right? We're doing it with philanthropic dollars. We haven't had to borrow a dime yet. So we've been able to move the needle without, getting it into debt. So, which is a blessing because we've had an anonymous donor, Bank of America. We work with them, and we got another $6.4 million to help this miracle on Monroe Street. So we're excited. The next years, Livingstone College won't look the same. A 4-star hotel owned and operated by Livingstone College. It will be the only 4-star hotel between Charlotte and Greensboro. Think about that. Livingstone College. When you think about that, a new 350-bed residence hall in the center of campus called the Quad. And so we're excited about that. So I'm giving you those coming attractions. And if you can't support us, pray for us. We're on a mission.
Awesome. Yeah, Dr. Davis, I appreciate you for giving the time. I speak on behalf of, myself, HBCU Gameday, and I think, the entire HBCU community. We're so happy that you were able to get your transplant and you're doing well and continue to do the work that you're doing over there at Livingstone. And we look forward to seeing what you guys pull off in 2026.
Hey, I'm excited about it. And thank you for all that you do. But I have to tell the people who are watching this interview that I want to thank you for your prayers, well wishes. It really kept me going in the darkest season of my life. And now that I'm on the other side of transplant, I can continue doing the work that I've been called to do. And remember, I always say this, that if service is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. So I'm here to serve. And before I go, I got to ask that question. Who you with, LC?